Our big focus here today is going to be safety.
Thank you.
Okay, and safety is paramount. I have to be honest with you, okay? There is no F word on my range. And you know what F word I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Feelings. Feelings. Because I got to be honest with you, I don't care about your feelings. What I care about is your safety. Okay? Everybody here came with a certain number of holes. That's the number of holes you're going to leave with. Okay? That's the bottom line. I teach all levels of firearms from 7-year-old beginners all the way up to guys with 20 years on SWAT team. I am a SWAT instructor and a SWAT medic trainer as well. I don't care what your level of experience is. We start every single class off with a discussion about safety. And you know what? Am I wearing a vest right now? No. When I'm training police officers, am I wearing a vest? Yes. Why would I train police officers and wear a vest but not wear it with you guys? Because I trust you more than I trust them. And the reason being is because when you do something every day for 20 years, when you walk around with this piece of equipment on your belt every day for 20 years, you develop a really, really bad word that begins with a C. It's called complacency. And you don't think about safety because bad things are never going to happen, bang, to me.
Exactly.
You guys ever see the YouTube video of the DEA agent down in Miami? This is a Glock 40. I am the only person in this room who is qualified to handle a Glock blam right in his foot. Okay? In front of a class full of, and then with a gunshot wound to his foot, he goes over to try to get his rifle, and everybody in the room's like, no, you already shot yourself with a pistol. No, put the rifle down. So, I want everybody to have a good time, but most importantly, I want everybody to be safe. Okay? If you're operating or you're acting unsafe on the line, you're going to be asked to leave. That's it. There's no discussion. There's no negotiation. You're just going to be removed from the line because I cannot have anybody acting unsafe on this line. As long as you guys are agreeing to that safety contract that I have with you, I think everybody's going to have a good time. Can we do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. First,
we should get those who've never fired before.
Yes.
Maybe go first.
So we're having two ranges. This one's for people who have fired before. This one is for people who haven't.
So,
all right. Before we do anything, we are going to talk about gun safety. Okay? Rule number 1 of safe gun handling. You're going to notice that all of the firearms that are on this bench have a little yellow flag in that. It's called the chamber flag. It's an empty barrel indicator. So it's a very, very easy way for us, either as instructors or range safety officers, to go down the line, take a look at those, and know that those firearms are indeed unloaded. We treat every gun as if it's loaded. Always. Many, many people are shot, seriously injured, killed, or shoot other people with guns that are unloaded. And I'll put that in air fingers quotes. And why? Because they don't check it. Or they check one part of the gun, but they don't check all parts. So that rule in its entirety is every gun is loaded until redundantly proven otherwise. And a redundant safety check is a visual and a physical inspection on any place on that system that could contain ammunition. All right, this particular rifle here, it's a bolt action, it's a single shot, so there is only one place that ammunition could be contained on this. But in order to be safe with this, I have to know this gun. If it's a semi-automatic pistol, it's got a magazine and it's got a chamber or a receiver, 2 places that ammunition could be stored. If it's a revolver, inside the cylinder. I have to know my system. If I don't know my system, I don't know how to properly and adequately check that for safety. Make sense? Okay. So every gun is loaded until and unless redundantly proven otherwise. It's a visual and a physical inspection. Oftentimes what we will do is we will take the empty barrel indicator out and then I will have somebody co-witness this. So what I may say is, I'm checking this visually, physically. I may hand this off and say, would you please verify that that system is clear? So now we have a redundant safety check, because guess what? I'm a human being and I can make mistakes. So there's somebody else there who can catch it in the event that I do make a mistake, okay? So rule number 1, we treat every gun as if it's loaded. And then when we verify that the gun is clear, we continue to follow all of the additional safety rules. Rule number 2 is we are always going to keep our finger off that trigger until we've identified our target and now we're ready to actually put a bullet into it. So we're going to be shooting today at the paper plates that have that red splatter, that black splatter target on it. Actually, it's black and red, and if you hit it, it'll turn yellow. So you get a very, very quick rapid and easy visual indicator that you've hit your target, okay? Once I have my sights established on the gun, I know what I'm shooting at, we verified that there isn't anything downrange, animal, mineral, or vegetable that I wouldn't want to put a bullet into, then we would be ready to fire that gun. But fingers always stay off the trigger, all right? And specifically, there's 2 parts that involve the word trigger. The actual trigger itself, and I'm not going to touch it, what I'm going to do is point it out using my little yellow pointer, is that little crescent moon shaped device that's inside that rectangular device down here on the bottom. That's the trigger. The portion that protects the trigger is called what? Trigger guard. If it has the word trigger in it, guess what I don't put my finger on? Either the trigger or the trigger guard. And the reason being is because what do you automatically do with your hands if you slip, if you fall, or if you're startled? You automatically clench. So if my finger is resting on that trigger guard and I clench, what's going to happen? The finger's going to come off the trigger guard and it's going to make very rapid, forceful contact with that trigger. Gun's going to go off. So what we want to do is make sure that it is high along the stock up here, okay? If it's a semi-automatic pistol, a frame. If it's alongside of a revolver, it would be alongside of the frame. Wherever you can stick that finger high and as far away from that trigger as possible, that's where we're going to want to put that trigger finger, okay? Any questions on where the trigger finger goes? Okay, rule number 3 is we are always going to keep this gun pointed in a safe direction at all times. What direction is the muzzle, the end that the bullet comes out? Down. Where is it pointing right now? Down. Have I at any point in time waved this gun around and had the business end of the gun pointing at any one of you?
No.
Okay, so here's the thing. I have not done that to you. I'm going to ask for the same courtesy in return. I get really snarly when people point guns at me. Please don't do that, okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do is to keep the gun pointed in a safe direction at all times. There are 2 safe directions that I have in my mind right now that I'm thinking about. Anybody else want to tell me what I'm thinking about, sir?
Up.
Okay. All right, if I point this gun up and I fire that round off, where's that round going to go?
Come back down.
It's going to go on a parabolic arc and it's going to come back down to earth, oftentimes with enough force to cause property damage, personal injury, or death. We don't ever want to go muzzle up, okay? We want to go muzzle down. Down at the ground, we've got nice soft ground, okay? So down at the ground would be one direction. Where's the second direction? Downrange, in the direction that I intend to fire the shot. There are some facilities like indoor shooting ranges that may say we want you to go muzzle up. That's because they've got a very, very slick concrete floor and they're concerned about ricochets. They'd rather put a round through their roof than they would into the ground. But that is a facility specific. Here, especially out here, a .22 caliber projectile can travel over a mile.
Oh, wow.
Says right in the box.
There was actually a girl that was killed. There was an Amish girl riding in an Amish horse-drawn buggy in Pennsylvania in 2015. You guys can Google this and look this up. Guy was cleaning his guns. He fired a rifle off in his backyard. That round traveled over a mile, and of course, nobody heard the gunshot. Here's this either 17 or 18-year-old girl riding in the back of a buggy, and all of a sudden she slumps down dead, and she's got a bullet hole in her head. That round traveled over a mile and came back down with enough force to kill her. It's a 1 in a billion situation, but you know what? We don't take chances at all when it comes to safety. Okay? So always keep your gun pointed down at the ground or in the direction that we intend to fire the shot. Okay? Rule number 4 is we always want to make sure of our target and what's beyond it, because we're shooting at a piece of paper. That piece of paper is not going to stop the bullet that we're firing in that direction. So if we were to miss our target, or if our bullet were to go through our target, what is it going to hit down there? Can I see anything down there that I don't mind getting hit by a bullet?
Yeah.
Okay. Everything down there is been checked. There's nothing down there that I'm concerned about. There's nothing. There's no animals, or there's no people, or there's no property, or anything else like that. There is a person right now. Yep. So we're going to be super conscious of that. He's just putting that target back up. Now, if we had loaded guns out right now, would he be downrange?
No.
Absolutely not. Because we don't have anybody go downrange until we have made all of the firearms safe, and we've specifically called what's called a cold range. Meaning now, and I will specifically say, downrange. That means whoever needs to go down to change out targets. But there's a safety protocol in place for that. Because people oftentimes don't think, oh, I did good, and then they want to scurry down to check their target, and somebody else is shooting, and that's where bad things can happen. So again, we have to be mindful of what we're doing. Okay? So we want to know our target and what is beyond it. Okay? And here's another rule that we incorporate into every single one of our safety briefings. Under no circumstances, if you feel like you are going to drop the gun, I don't want you to try to catch it. I want you to let it fall. And here's the reason why. If you try to catch something that is falling, what do you necessarily have to do to control it? Clench, right? And so what do you think happens if you go to grab that gun and now you clench it, and I can tell you exactly on average how many pounds of pressure you clench with. 22 pounds of pressure. Takes about 3 pounds of pressure to get these to go off. So now, if I'm putting 22 pounds of pressure on something that takes 3 pounds to detonate, what do you think is going to happen when I go to grab it? And where's that muzzle pointed? Maybe at you, maybe at yourself, maybe at somebody that you care about. We want to make sure that that doesn't happen. So if you feel like you're going to drop the gun, and there really is no reason why you should, because you're going to have a good firm grip on this, but if you ever do feel like you're going to drop a gun, just let it fall, and then when it's safe to do so, then we can go ahead and pick that up. Okay? So we understand our rules? Okay, we treat every gun as if it's loaded unless and until we do that redundant safety check. Number 2, we always keep our finger off the trigger and off the trigger guard until we've positively identified our target and we're ready to take a shot. Number 3, we always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction for our purposes today, down at the ground or in the direction that you intend to shoot. Number 4, we're always going to be aware of what we're shooting at and what's beyond our target. And number 5, if we feel like we're going to drop that gun, we're just going to let that gun drop, and then when it comes to a rest, then we'll go ahead and pick it up. That's going to be our safety contract. Can we all agree to that? Yes. Okay, very good.